What's going on, everybody? I'm Nick Santonastasso, and I went from a depressed, suicidal teenager that thought you were either born with confidence or you didn't have it, to a mindset master, global motivational speaker, bodybuilder model, and especially this good looking. I'm one of the passionate few. Omar, yeah, I thought this was an amazing opportunity, but also just as an interviewer to getting me to talk about things that I don't usually talk about, right? Our adversities, the things that are really gonna help people relate and really help people, make that transformational change. And so getting out the goods and the stuff that people don't usually talk about. So just created that amazing, comfortable environment for us to have that transparent, authentic communication and conversation to impact millions of lives.
Welcome to this episode of the Passionate Few podcast today. It's your host, Omar here, and today we get to sit down with none other than Nick Santonastasso. And what's particularly compelling about Nick's story is that the guy actually has nothing but a single limb and a single finger. That's right, he was actually born with Hanhart Syndrome, and from the time he was a kid onwards, had to figure out how to navigate his life, literally from how to eat to how to date, and everything you can imagine in between. And of course, because of Nick's relentless mindset to figure it out and the support of his loving family, Nick was able to actually wrestle throughout high school, develop a ton of muscle, and would later become a world-renowned speaker traveling all over the world and inspiring millions of people with his story. So in this interview, you get to hear so much more than just his mindset, but also how you can appreciate the things in your day-to-day life and prove that no matter what excuses you have in your mind, you too can make your dreams a reality. So I hope you guys really sit back, relax, enjoy this powerful interview with none other than the man who knows no limits, Nick Santonastasso. Enjoy. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Nick.
Got it, brother. Grateful for the opportunity.
Absolutely, dude. So let's talk about your story. A lot of people know about you on social media. You've got quite the following there. You speak around the world, and you've inspired literally millions of people through social media and otherwise with your story. But before you became the world-renowned, inspirational dude you are now, talk to me a little about where you grew up, what your childhood was like, and sort of where the ball started rolling for you as a kid.
Yeah, so I'm originally from New Jersey, and so growing up in New Jersey was a small town. We moved kind of by the Jersey Shore, and so I was just kind of put into this school system of amazing people. People always ask me about my upbringing, right? And the one thing that I can always reflect on and say, like, truly was like an amazing school system, amazing support system. And so, I moved to the Jersey Shore when I was in first grade. And so like kindergarten before that, I was in North Jersey, but after that, I was in Jersey Shore for the majority of my life. And so that's where I grew up, and that's kind of where, I guess my mind was cultivated. My mindset was cultivated through, my environment, my parents and everything. But we can even dive before, the medical, the medical treatment or whatnot.
Yeah, because I know that your parents were actually incredibly both supportive, but also sort of challenged you to sort of toughen up, right?
Yeah.
They weren't too soft. And just talk to me about, being born into a situation where, you got one arm, no legs, and you're probably looking around thinking like, oh, why am I different, right?
Yeah.
Insecurities as a kid start popping up. Take us back to even before that. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so
your earliest memories of that.
I'm the baby. I'm the baby of the family, and I have one brother and two sisters, all older than me, and so they save the best for last. You know how they say that. And so in 1996, my mom was pregnant with me, and so they went in for the first ultrasound, and everything was great. The second ultrasound, and then my mom went in for a late checkup, like a late treatment, and so they pulled me up, and there was just all these different things that were wrong. They said, Mr. and Mrs. Santonastasso, like this baby, it doesn't look like his limbs are being developed. It looks like he's missing his arms and his legs, and he might have cleft palate. His face might be messed up, and like as a parent, like what do you do? Like how do you react to that situation? I always tell people, like, you can become the victim of a situation or the victor of the situation, and it's just like the way you view it and the meaning you attach behind it. And so my parents were like, all right. They kind of looked at each other and was like, listen, like, this is what's going on. Like, you can't change it. Like there's no point of like, worrying. Although you have to worry, right? It's your kid and you want it to survive, but like there's nothing you can really do. Like, and so my parents, looked at each other and said, we're gonna see where, life takes this. Like, we don't have control of this. And so they told my parents that I had about a 30% chance to live. And the reason being is because they classify me with Hanhart Syndrome. And so Hanhart Syndrome is a super rare genetic disorder that either leaves the babies with undeveloped limbs or undeveloped organs. And so in 1996, I was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. Ever.
Wow.
Ever. Yeah, unicorn.
Yeah.
And so so the 12th baby, and they said, out of the 12, 8 of them have passed away due to undeveloped organs. So the babies are born and they can't breathe on their own, they can't eat on their own, and they're hooked up to all these machines, and they later on pass away. And so, they said he's got about a 30% chance to live. And even in that situation, right? Like not only learning that, your son's gonna be born like this, he may not survive, but he has a 30% chance to live. So how do you react to that in itself? And so my parents did something that would, change the course of not only their life, but my life forever. And that was like, they looked at each other and said, we're going to focus on that 30%. We're going to focus on the chance of this baby living rather than it dying, because focusing on the negative, now that I analyze, like, the lesson behind it, it's like focusing on the negative will never serve you. I don't know if my parents were thinking that way, but like in reality, in life, like there's no, like you're wasting your energy focusing on that 70%, right? Because it's disempowering.
Right.
And I think as human beings, like we are primed. Like we're primed to think about our weaknesses. We're primed to think about the things that we don't have. We're primed to think about the things that we don't have that we want that other people have. Like we just like, as humans, we know how to dig ourselves down. Like we're the stupid, like it's so stupid. It's like, stop focusing on the disempowering stuff. You're never gonna get anywhere. Focus on the empowering stuff. And so, my parents were like, all right, like 30%, like he's got it, 30%, just like, that's the least you can do in that moment, because like, I'm a big believer in energy.
Absolutely,
and the energy
same.
you put out and like, like if someone tells you you only have 5 months to survive, like don't tell me that, like tell me otherwise, like tell me just kind of like beat around the bush, because if my mindset gets set to like that 5 months, I'm gonna die in 5 months.
Right.
Like
yeah.
that's how it works. Like we create our own problems, we create our own stress, and my
self-fulfilling
parents,
prophecies, yeah.
Yeah, so we're in our own way the majority of the time.
Absolutely.
And so my parents were like, all right, let's focus on the 30%. And so, months went by, my mom, even like I say like my parents are super positive, but like my mom's crying, my mom's crying every night and, praying and, screaming like, why me? And still in that victim mentality of like, why me? Like, why does my son have to be like this? Like I hope he survives. And so my mom had a C-section and they pulled me out, and the first thing, my mom noticed was like, oh my God, he's got a full head of hair and he's so cute. And then they did tests on my organs. The doctors took me and were like, we need to see if this baby's gonna survive. And so they did tests on my organs, and they came back and were like, your son's healthy.
Wow.
Like you're 100% healthy. Like nothing's wrong with his organs. The only thing that was affected were his limbs. And just like, imagine the feeling that came over them, right? Like I kind of wish I could like be there and kind of like view that situation. And it's just like, okay, well, internally the kid's fine. We just got to worry about this physical part of him, right?
Yeah.
And so, and even bringing me home to my siblings, because I just started interviewing my siblings, because we're making a series, like a docu-series on my life, and they said like, we didn't notice anything different, I mean, and that's the thing, like with kids, right?
Yeah.
Like at a young age, like not only are they receptive and we're planting seeds in their life, but like they go off by reaction, and they go off by the way you react to situations. And like, so like, say your kid falls down, like if you start making this big fuss, like then they're gonna get overwhelmed. But the reason why I'm saying is because when they brought me home, the parents just was like, this is normal, like this is your baby brother, and so my siblings realized like, oh my God, we got a new baby brother and we love him, and they just didn't realize like the difference.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Kind of like you're saying, like when a kid falls, if you look at him and go, oh my God, the kid's likely to cry.
Even more.
But yeah, exactly. But if they fall
like,
and you're like,
right.
oh, it's okay,
You're
you
right.
got it. They're like, oh,
yeah.
okay. They start to believe it, yeah. So talk to me a little bit about like when you became conscious of the fact that you were a little bit different than others, right? Because I'm sure there was a moment, I mean, as a kid, you don't feel it, right? But I'm sure as you start going out into the world outside of the house, you start recognizing, take me back to your earliest conscious memories of feeling like, oh man, I guess I am different, or people are looking at me different, or,
Yeah. Preschool and like kindergarten, right? Like you don't realize I didn't realize the package I had going on, right?
Right.
But the one thing I noticed, and it sticks out to me, was Christmas time. We took class pictures, and so everyone had a Santa hat on. And I remember looking back in this picture, and everyone's smiling, and then here's Nick, and I have my hand shoved up in my hat like this. So I took the picture like this. I was hiding my finger. I didn't like the way it looked. I didn't even know that. Like I didn't even know that in the moment, right? As that young kid, like I don't like this. But like looking back, I'm like, oh my God, like there was some insecurity there already, But I guess I didn't pick up on it too much. But I was like, wow, like this is different. And then I realized like why am I sitting in a chair? You know, like, why are people pushing me in a chair? And, you know, why am I always looking up and like looking at, like, why am I short? You know, like, why am I not growing?
Yeah.
But like preschool, kindergarten, like it was just subtle. You know, I didn't realize it. And then I say, you know, going into middle school or going into elementary school, like if I didn't realize I was different, there were certain events that people let me know I was different. And so, for example, you know, we it was probably 3rd or 4th grade, and we were playing kickball, and you're like, Nick, how do you play kickball? I'll tell you how I play kickball.
Yeah.
And so I would have, because I can run around, so I'd have someone kick the ball for me, and I'd run around the bases.
Right.
And so it was my turn, and you know, I'm a 3rd grade, 4th grade kid, and someone kicks the ball for me, and I'm running around the bases. You know, I hit first, I hit second, I hit third. I'm competitive, dude.
Right.
And so right before they get me out, you know, I slide into home base, and I still remember this kid's name. I won't put him on blast, but it's just like crazy how like moments like this stick with you.
Right. Yeah. And they become fuel later.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Big fuel. And so, you know, I slide into home base, and the catcher, you know, yells to the kicker. He goes, "How are you gonna let a cripple score on you?" And like, I'm in 3rd grade, so I may not know what cripple means, but I know it's negative. Like, I know I shouldn't be getting called this name. And so like,
wow.
Here it hit me, like it was a punch in the gut. And like I said, I may not know what it meant, but I know how it made me feel.
Yeah, you felt it. Yeah.
And so I was thinking to myself, like, oh, like why, like I won fair and square. Like, why do they got to call me that?
Yeah, why do they got to bring that up?
You know, why do they got to bring me up? Like, I beat you fair and square. Like, don't play that game. And it's just like, first taste of victim mentality. Like, why? Like, why me? You know, like, I beat you fair and square. Why do the kids got to make fun of me? Like, why does that even have to be a word?
Right.
You know, why do I have to feel that way? You know, like, you don't feel that way. Like, these kids don't feel that. Why do I have to feel that way? And so there was just instances that, you know, like, it was more reinforcement, like, Nick, you're different. Nick, you're different. Like, Nick, you're different. Kids let you know you're different. And so, you know,
of course, at that age, too, you don't have the emotional know-how or confidence to
like,
talk yourself like, oh no, that's it. You know, I got to focus on what's positive, and you don't have any of that going on at that age. Yeah,
and like, if you don't know how to react to it, right? And so like, even with like as humans, one bad thing happens, and we tend to stack them. We tend to start thinking of all the negative things about us,
when
right?
It rains,
and so,
it pours,
you know, going into middle school, I had to take the shorter bus because my the wheelchair lift, and I remember this girl's name too, it's clear as day. And so we're in the bus, and we're going, and we're going to school. And I remember this girl, and she's just like, she's going through everyone, and she's making fun of everyone. She's like ripping everyone open. And I'm like, you know, here I am, like, oh man, not me, like started sweating. And she gets to me, and she's like, dude, she's like, I don't even have to start on you. You're already too messed up.
Wow.
Boom, just that. And like, you know, the bus driver hears it, like the aide hears it, but nothing really happens.
Right.
And again, I'm just like, I definitely started crying, for sure.
Right,
just like looked the other way, and just like little girl Nick just came out and just like started crying. It's just like, you know, I don't know how to deal with that. Like my parents never told me how to deal with that. Like, my parents are great, right? I'm not knocking my parents. I'm just saying, like, there are some things that the only way you can figure out how to get past it is to go through it, right? The only way you find that solution is to go through that bad time. And so, you know, here I am, just like, back to that victim, like, why me? And then, like, she was a girl, right? So then I'm like, well, girls think I'm disgusting.
Oh man, so then your confidence.
Girls think I'm no confidence. I thought you were a kid that you were either born with confidence or you didn't have it. So I was like, Nick, you got zero confidence. Like, that's something that you didn't inherit. You know, I didn't realize it was a skill, right? We talk about confidence as a skill, and we work on it. It's a repetition. It's a muscle. But at that time, it's like, oh, well, you're disgusting. Like, girls, you know, I started stacking these thoughts. So, like, girls think I'm disgusting, and you know, how could I walk a girl to her locker? You know, I'm in a wheelchair, and how could I open her locker for her? And is she gonna want to hold my hand? Well, I have one finger. That's probably disgusting. And she probably never, dude. Like, talk
all
about like, oh my God.
Going through that all day long.
Girls like feminine energy. Girls were my biggest trigger for suicide.
Wow.
Bottom line.
How old were you when you first started thinking about suicide or
middle school?
Really?
Middle school.
Yeah, because dude, like
middle
at that
school,
age, you're the most sensitive.
Middle school,
you're going through relationships.
And what I've realized is, like, traveling all over and meeting adults and meeting kids, like, dude, middle school and high school is like a rough time for everyone. Like, I don't care if you have like an arm coming out of your forehead, like I don't care who you are, it's hard for everyone.
Right, yeah.
Right? And we're all going through some things. And so, you know, like our hormones and all this, we're going through this adolescence phase. And, you know, as whichever way you go, like whether you're a guy, you want some girl energy, whether you're a girl, you want some guy energy, whatever way we go, I don't care. You want energy from something, right? And so, you know, I'd look at my friends and I'd be like, you know, they have girlfriends and girls like them, and I didn't get any of that. You know, like, you know, I'd had friendly conversations, and I was a dork. Like I was nerdy. Like, and I'm still a nerd. Like I'm proud to say, like I'm still a nerd. I still love video games. I still love World of Warcraft. Like I still love all this stuff.
Yeah.
But that back then, I wanted that female energy.
Right.
And I wasn't getting it. And so, like I said, if a conversation didn't go the way I wanted, or something fell through, or I got a dirty look from a girl or something, or she laughed at me, like, dude, like I would stack, and like all those thoughts would start coming to my head, and I'd go home and I'd cry in the shower. I'd go ahead and I'd cry in the shower because I didn't want my parents to know. Because my whole life, people were like, dude, you're such a positive role model and an influence, and I knew how contagious energy was, and so I felt like I had this baton. I felt like I had this role to be this light. Right? So if I came home from school and my parents were like, Nick, how's school? And I really let them know how it was, then that would just bring, a whole storm then I'd have to answer more questions. And I didn't want to put my parents through that, and I didn't want to let them know. And so I'd come home and then I'd cry in my room, I'd cry in the shower. Well, why are your eyes red? What's wrong with your eyes? Well, I got soap in my eyes. I'd always have something, bro. I'd always have something to let people know that I was all good. Nick's all good. I'd go to school and I'd smile and, I'd put on this front, and because I knew how contagious energy was.
Did you have anybody you confided in at that time? A sibling, a friend, or not really?
No, dude. To be honest, I didn't let anyone know. I was literally just interviewing my sister, and she started crying. She's like, Nick, I was right down the hallway. I was 2 doors down. I had no idea that you wanted to kill yourself. That's how good you were.
Did you ever try?
No, never tried.
What was the voice? What was the reason that kept you going?
What would my parents do? Like, what would that wave of like? What happens if my parents walked in and they saw me dead? Like, not only would they be the parents that killed, like your son killed himself, but that disabled kid that killed himself. Like you must have been really bad parents that you didn't have no idea. Like I knew that it would bring such this wave of negative, even more. Like Nick, even like you're going through some negative stuff, but like you taking your whole life, there would be a whole 10 times the wave of negative emotions if you did that.
And it would be selfish.
Yeah.
It would be selfish to do that.
Like I never quit when my parents put food in front of me and they said, figure it out. I never quit when my parents put clothes in front of me and said, figure it out. Like how could I give up on my own life?
That's crazy.
But like at that time, you think that's the only way.
Yeah. And you didn't have examples around you to go model after, right? You're literally on your own at the most pivotal time.
Not many unicorns. Yeah. Like I just felt like, I couldn't relate to anyone, Like these kids don't know what I'm going through.
Yeah. And even if you talk to them, they might get it like with words, but they don't get the feeling of it, so you couldn't connect with them. Let me ask you in terms of actual like learning how to physically do stuff, right? Because your parents would say like, here's some food, figure it out, right? Or they would say, here's this, figure that out. Can you give maybe 2 or 3 examples for people listening? Just so they could see just like exactly how you had to learn how to do things on your own.
Yeah, so they sat me down and were like, look, Nick, like you're born with no legs and 1 arm. This is it. And like, you're gonna have to figure out how to do things your way. And so in the most comforting way, Nick, things are gonna take a little bit more time. You're gonna fall down a lot more. But like, you just gotta figure out how to do Nick's way. Like, you just gotta figure it out. Just keep trying. And so in the most polite way, they'd put my food in front of me and with a utensil and they'd say, Nick, figure it out. And my clothes, I'd fuss with my clothes and fall down and try to get my clothes on. And I'd tell people, like, parents, like, you can ask yourself, are you doing too much for your kids? Because the biggest advantage I had and the biggest thing, like, my parents gave me was helping me exercise the muscle of doing hard things. Like, help me exercise the muscle of falling on my face and getting back up. Because I was getting used to being uncomfortable. Like, life is all about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's right.
And so my parents would just continuously put me in these situations where my brain had to think of like, okay, Nick, how you gonna get through this? Like, how you gonna get through this wall? And I cultivated this phrase of it's not can't, but how. Because as humans, like I said, we're very disempowering people, like as species. Like we always think of like disempowering things. And so like the majority of humans, we start with can't. Well, I can't do this because I'm not smart enough. I can't do this because I don't have enough knowledge. I can't do this because I don't have no legs. Like, how empowering is that? It's not. And so I start every challenge, I start every goal, business, personally, with how. Like, how are we gonna get through this challenge? How are we gonna get over this wall? And so like for eating, like my parents would have a spoon there with Cheerios. And I'm like, I don't need the spoon. I'd flick the spoon off and I'd start licking my finger and eating Cheerios so fast. Like just finding a more efficient way.
Yeah.
But like you will never find a better solution or a more efficient way if you don't fall on your face.
Right.
And I think nowadays, like parents, like, you're kind of handicapping your own kids. Like right now, like, you know, when I said self-reflect on like, are you doing too much for your kids? You know how many parents were like, oh, yeah. You know, that's me.
He's got a point
like
there.
my parents, like, just put things in front of me and gave me the kind of like creative freedom to like fall on my face and figure it out. But like, they didn't coddle me. That's so important. Like, they didn't coddle me, because if I would have got coddled, I would have got smacked in the face
Yeah, you
at an early age when like when mom and dad aren't there, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, as parents, I'm not a parent, but like, this is my advice to parents. Like, as parents, we are cultivating our kids' mindsets through our actions, through the way we react. Like, monkey see, monkey do.
That's right.
If you don't think your kids are listening, because majority of your kids are probably not listening, but I promise you they're watching. They're watching how you react to situations. They're watching how you take those phone calls. They're watching everything you get pissed off about. Like I always say, you know, you're driving in your car, right? And you have little Sally in the passenger seat, and you're driving in your car and it starts pouring rain. You have two situations on how you can react. One, you could be like, oh man, you know, the rain sucks and I hate rain. And then your kid looks at you, it has a negative connotation towards rain. Or you can look at Sally and be like, man, I'm so grateful for this rain. I don't have to wash the car anymore. The rain did it for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your kid's gonna take that.
It's funny you say that. I actually had a teacher who became a mentor who I remember, I'll never forget one time he had a pattern interrupt in my head where he said, wow, this rain is wonderful for the vegetation.
Yeah.
I was just like, whoa.
Totally snapped you
yeah,
pattern.
totally like, whoa, that's right. It's great for vegetables, for fruit, for the ecosystem.
The
like,
things I eat.
Yeah, exactly. And so it totally shifts your thinking by that simple thing. And if you don't have anybody introduce it into your life, you just inherit the beliefs of your environment. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, my goal is to, like, I love kids, right? Like, I want to help kids. I want to help kids, even if they're not in a dark place. I just want to help kids, give them the right mindset tools. But the one thing that I want to help is like shift the parents' perspective, like show them like how we should be reacting and how the things that we should trickle down and instill into our kids, like the habit of gratitude, right? And the habit of, you know, reframing things, and the habit of, you know, realizing that every situation you can pull a positive out of it. Like I just want to give the tools to the parents, like change the parents' lives, shift the parents' perspectives, make them look at the world a little bit differently, and then have them trickle all the things that they change and the way they react to the world and their perspective into their kids. Because like life is two things. It's like gratitude and it's perspective. Like those two things will humble you, and those two things will ground you in the worst and the best times. Like, and so if we can just give people a perspective, like me, right? Like what you do in podcasts is you give perspective of people all around the world.
That's right.
That struggle with the same things. We go through the same things. Like mentally, we all struggle with the same things, and we just show people collectively how a bunch of people got through the BS.
Right.
Perspective.
Yeah, I love that. Now, talk to me a little bit about maybe some of the most challenging things that you had to learn how to do that maybe weren't as easy as eating or some of the other stuff. Like maybe something you haven't shared before that was really tough,
Yeah.
but and share about how you figured it out.
Yeah, so I was probably 13, 14, 15, and I hit my parents with a gut punch. I hit my parents with a gut punch and was like, why can't I ride a bike? Like, Dad, like, I want to ride a bike like the normal kids. Like, this is stupid, you know? Like, why can't I go ride a bike with the normal kids? And,
Right.
you know, and my dad's just like me. He's just like, you tell him an idea and he starts marinating on it.
Yeah.
And I'll start thinking of how. Like, my dad's the type of dude that, like, he'll see me struggling with my zipper and he'll come back with a hair tie and be like, put your finger in this, pull the zipper up this way.
Yeah.
You know, like, here, like, this will make you, it pisses me off that you're having trouble with this. Like, just use this. Like, just take the help.
Yeah.
You know? And so, like, Dad, I want to ride a bike. Next thing you know, my dad comes out with, you know, not comes out, but like orders like a three-wheeled bike, and I can ride it with my arms. You know, I can pedal it with my arms. And he's like, here, now you got a bike. Like, go ride. And I did go ride.
Wow.
And then the other thing was like, you know, I want to run. You know, I want to do these things. And early on, you know, my parents, there was so many people in the medical field that wanted them to do crazy things. So like when I was younger, this is stuff that I don't really talk about, so it's good that you have this.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, like they wanted to put screws in my quads and bone lengthening. So basically, like I would sit in a bed for months or years, and every day they would spin this wheel in my leg and lengthen my bone a couple millimeters. And so like that's so that I could have more leg. Or they wanted to, there's two bones in this finger. They wanted to split it in half so I could have two fingers. And my parents were like, this, like, we don't know what Nick wants. Like the kid can't, you know, at first, like the kid can't talk. Like, we're not going to make a decision that could alter this kid's life for the rest of his life. We're not in the position. That's not our choice.
Wow.
That's big, as my parents did that,
Yeah,
because they could have
absolutely.
did it, right? Like, I could have 2 fingers right now, and I could have some longer quad, and I'd probably be in more pain, and where would I be? But like, they were like, we're not going to make that decision for him. But when I got into middle school and high school, I was like, I want legs. I want to see if I could do legs. And so with prosthetics, the less amount of limb you have, the harder it is to control it. And so I don't have much quad. I probably have a couple inches of quad on both sides. I have the leg. And so we were looking for a bunch of prosthetic people, who would accept this challenge, because it's a big challenge.
Right.
Finally, we found people in New Jersey that was going to accept this challenge. And so, it's kind of like a paper mache process, but they molded my leg, and, I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
How old were you at this time?
Probably 14.
Okay.
I was 14, 15, out of shape Nick. So out of shape, like chunky, like just like, Nick. And so at first, they fit me with the sockets. And at first I was wearing prosthetic legs that were just stilts. So no knees, they were just like stilts. And I would use them to exercise my quad. And the one thing that I didn't realize was how much physical muscles go into you guys simply standing up. And so when you grow up with full body, like when you're walking around as a toddler, like you're developing and exercising your obliques, your abs, your lower back, your quads, everything that goes into you guys standing up that you have no idea that's going on.
Yeah.
Me, I didn't have that. And I didn't realize that until then. And so I started exercising myself on these little stilts. I'd walk around 45 minutes every day.
Wow.
And I'd walk on these things. I was pretty good at them.
Yeah, what did it feel like your first time walking on them?
It's just elevated, right? I'm like, oh, the air is pretty great up here. But it's just like,
up here,
it's a different point of view, right?
Yeah,
Even just
literally.
a couple inches and just being able to reach things on the counter. It's just weird, right? And so I'd exercise myself with that. And then finally it was able to, we were upgrading into the big legs. And so these legs were 7.5 pounds each. I don't even know if we can talk about pricing on them. It'd probably be pretty cool, but like, it costs an arm and a leg, like everything is, and
what's a ballpark of the cost?
$50,000 a leg
Per leg.
per knee.
Per
So
knee.
these knees, there was a certain knee, and basically they'd go off your momentum and your weight shift. And so like when I would swing around this way, the knee was supposed to swing forward, and it was all like you can plug it into a computer, and wildness.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that like I kind of want to like take a stand or kind of go against. But everything in the medical industry, like everything that people need, is upmarked like 700%.
Yeah. Because it's such a rare market. Yeah.
Because people need it.
Yeah, they know people pay a
so,
price for it.
We got these legs, and I got in them, and like here I am now, like Nick, I'm like 3'5". I don't know what I am, but now I'm like 5'2", right?
Yeah,
that's pretty scary for me. And so like, wow, I'm up here, and at first I would walk with a walker in the bars. Like they'd have like walking bars and assist. But this was a big realization of like, Nick, like you're not in shape. Like you're not in shape for this. And I didn't realize at the time, but it was the one thing physically that I was like, wow, I can't do this. Like it was super hard. Like I can walk with a walker, and I can walk with the bars, but Nick didn't want that. I'm competitive, everything. I want to just do it all. Like I want to go run.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it physically. And so I was like, wow, like this is super hard. And so I was getting around fine without legs. Like you've seen, like I run around, and so I told my parents, I was like, this is kind of holding me back. Like, sorry, like these were really expensive, but like maybe I'll come back to these,
Yeah.
And so that was kind of something, the first thing physically that I couldn't really do.
And when did you start getting into fitness? Because I know that became a part of your life as well.
Yeah, so after that, I realized I was still looking for something to get me out of my hole, right? Because high school, I was like, big victim mentality, kept it to myself, but I was like, I need an extracurricular activity. I need a sport. I need something.
You need to be part of something. Yeah.
And at the time, this arm was 5 inches longer than it is now. And my bone was going faster than my skin. And so it was very sensitive. It'd get infective. I used to play the drums. I forgot to mention this. I never talk about this. Let me bring it back.
Yeah.
So first grade, second grade, I guess the one thing my parents told the school district was like, listen, this kid can do everything. This kid can write. He can do all, like, he doesn't need extra time. Maybe you have to pick up his pencil when he drops it, but like he can do everything. And so they were like, the one thing we don't want you to do is just treat him any different. And so I think it was first grade or second grade, Mr. Bertrone, if you've seen this, that guy's the man. So he came in, he was like, hey buddy, I'm the drum teacher, I'm the music teacher. Do you want to see if you could play drums? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, for sure. And so they brought me into this room, and literally, ace bandage. They ace bandage a stick to this arm, it was a little bit more sensitive. but the ace bandage to stick to this arm and ace bandage to stick to this arm. And he put me on a snare. And I was just like hitting it, and he was telling me rhythms, and I got good. And so the school actually bought me an electric drum set. And so an electric drum set. And so what they did was, and my dad actually helped adapt this, but I was able to sit on the hi-hat pedal and sit on the bass pedal because it was electric. It wasn't really hitting a bass. And so here Nick I'm strapped in the sticks, and I'm playing the hi-hat with this one, and I'm playing the bass. I'm playing a full set of drums now.
Yeah, you're rocking
And
out.
I'm just learning. I'm learning as I go. And they were like, Nick, like, we need to move you into the middle school band because you're too good. And I'm like, okay, so this was like my first step of like, I got some freedom here. Like, I got some freedom. This is something that, nothing's holding me back. And so people don't even, by the way, the world has no idea I played the drums. So now you guys know. And I'm actually getting back into the drums, which I'm going to go ahead and do. But those were some of the things that kind of just, I was able to do. But like the prosthetics, it was just like a wall. It's like a wall of like, I can't do this. But then anyway, I got into high school and I'm looking for an activity. And so my older brother was a wrestler for the high school, like his whole entire life. So I just organically looked up the wrestlers.
Right.
My best friends were all wrestlers, and so my best friend Dan, at first, he was a bowler his freshman year. Like he wrestled his whole entire life, but he decided to bowl. And we don't judge Dan; it's a no judgment zone. And so he's like, "Bro, like you can bowl. You just got to push the ball down the lane. You get to eat, food when you come back. It's really easy." And I'm like, "All right, let's do it." And so my freshman year, I bowled and I realized it wasn't for me. I wanted something that was going to push me much more. But it was my first taste of being part of a team, right? First step. Sophomore year, Dan goes back to wrestling, which he should have done. And all my best friends are like, dude, like you always tell people to try new things, like try wrestling. And the coaches in middle school always wanted me to wrestle because it was unique. Yeah. And they thought, and my brother wrestled. And so they're like, all right. And like I said, you get an idea and you start marinating on it. And at first I was like, I can't, my arm, I can't.
Right, you start looking for reasons why not.
Yeah, and then I was like, all right, like this has the ability to pivot me out of this hole. And so I came home one day and I waited for both my parents to come home. And, I sat them down and I always came up with ideas, right? Like, Mom, I want to do this, I want to do that. But this was a little bit different. I was like, I want to be a wrestler. And my mom, immediately was like, Nick, like, no, like, like, you're going to hit your arm. Like, if you hit your arm, bottom line is your bone's going to come through your skin. Like, there's no way around it. And I was like, you're right. I was like, well, can we cut it off? Can we take care of it? Can we do something about it? And they're like, what do you mean cut it off? Like, what are you talking about? And I was like, yeah, can we cut it off? And, they're like, well, the right word's amputate. You're so aggressive with your words. Like, let's use the right word. It's amputate. And I'm like, all right, can we do something about my arm? And they were like, is this something that you really want to do? And meanwhile, they didn't know that I was in this dark hole. But I was like, yeah, like, this make me feel better about myself. I could be with my friends. And
yeah, you sold them.
Yeah, I definitely, I sold them. And so my sophomore year, they scheduled the appointment for me to amputate my arm. And so the goal was basically to just make cushion, because this would not only help me wrestle, but it would improve the quality of my life.
Right.
But this was just for a chance to wrestle. Like, I didn't know if I was going to make the team.
Right.
I didn't know if I was going to be able to wrestle, but this was just for a chance. And so I asked people, like, what are you willing to sacrifice? Like, what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to just for a taste of your dream? Just for a chance, a small chance to be able to achieve a goal. Like, what are you willing to give up? Because like I gave up my arm. I went to the extreme extent to just like better my life, but like to do this extreme thing just for a chance. And so that's what I always ask people, like, you're going in the right direction and you're achieving something that you really want to do when you're willing to sacrifice anything.
Right, yeah, you're paying
your price. Ed talks about your will to win. Like, you're willing to give up, anything, like, to just get this dream. And so for me, it was just like, I want to be a wrestler, I want to be an athlete. Because if I could be labeled as an athlete and labeled as a wrestler, this would instill confidence in me. This would raise myself up and I'd be with my buddies. And so we went ahead and we went ahead to the doctors and did the amputation. And so,
dude,
I remember telling the doctor, I'm like, dude, if I can't beat someone over the head with this after the surgery, like, we're going to have a problem with this. Like, I need to be able to beat someone over the head with this.
Yeah.
And so they did the amputation. And so what they did was they lasered 5 inches of my bone off, which I didn't know they could do. It's pretty cool. So they lasered 5 inches of my bone off. I have the scars here. And they pulled extra skin over my bone to create a padding. And so, I woke up and the surgery went fine. And I think the funny part about this is I didn't tell any teachers or my friends that I was cutting my arm off.
Yeah.
Because dude, everything I do, like, whether it's extreme or big, like, I treat it as it's nothing.
Yeah, no biggie.
Because I don't hype myself up. I don't get, all flustered and nervous. Like I just treat things that as are normal. Like I don't believe in jet lag. Like people are like, oh, jet lag messes me up. Well, I don't believe in it. So like when I fly over to China, like I just don't believe in jet lag. No, that's not real. Let me go work out. Let me reset my clock. I don't believe in it. Because like the more I focus on jet lag, the more I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm jet lag. I'm gonna convince myself that I'm tired.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, all right, Nick, like I remember driving, like we were going to the amputation room and I'm like looking at this thing and it was out here. I'm like, well, this is gonna be gone, that's it. So I woke up and had about 17 stitches in my arm and everything went great. I remember I ate so much food after the surgery. That's the one thing I remember, like you're gonna have surgery stomach. You're not gonna be able to eat a lot. Why? I ate a lot.
Yeah.
Defy the odds. And so, I go back to school and I always say I was the happiest kid that just cut his arm off. I'm smiling and I had this, this cast on. The weird thing was I had ghost limb. So like I could still feel my arm there. Like I could go like this and like feel it.
Really? Yeah. So you
feel
have the
it.
sensation.
Feel the arm. Like I would still tuck it. And the one thing that was really weird, it was like this really, really aggressive pulling sensation because all the stitches were pulled and it was just like, it was weird. And this was puffed up like a balloon.
And how old are you at this time?
I was 16.
16.
I was 16.
This is high school.
This is 16, and I was sitting on my couch. I missed Halloween that year. And so my friends thought it was funny to come over and like throw candy at me because I couldn't move. Because I'm sitting here and I have my arm. I gained some weight too.
Yeah.
Like, I was sitting up and I was eating Chinese food and like, but my friends were cool enough to bring me candy because I wasn't able to go out with it.
That's crazy.
But I go back to school and people are like, dude, like, what'd you do? And I'm like, cut my arm off.
Yeah.
And they're like, why? I said, I'm going to become a wrestler. I was so pumped up to tell people. And, there was a percentage that supported me and there was a percentage that was like, dude, let's be real. Athlete, let alone wrestler, you have no legs and one arm. Like, let's be real. And that's that outside noise, right? There's always going to be the outside noise, the haters, the naysayers. And it's like, we all have it. And like, you can become victim to it or you can become victor to it. And that's like, you can let it drive you or affect you. And like we were saying, jet fuel, like it's all jet fuel. Like I always chose to like use it as motivation. Like the biggest motivational speech you could give me is like telling me I can't do something. And so, people are like, what's your plan B? Like, you can't become a wrestler. And I was like, you're right. I'm not going to become a wrestler. I'm going to become a varsity wrestler. And it was always just like my poke, right? Like my poke and I'm like, watch, like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this. And like, you're going to watch and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to inspire you and show you that, regardless of what situation, like you can achieve it. Because even now that I'm like, reflecting back and analyzing those people, like maybe they didn't believe in themselves.
And they were projecting their own insecurities onto you.
The majority of the time, that's what it is, right? So like, I'm glad, like I'm proud of like the evolution of me, like the evolution of Nick, like the way that I'm going off tangent, but like I'm just so proud of like the evolution. Like I don't get offended of like people coming from that situation because it's more likely their insecurities and their lack of confidence within themselves that's portraying.
Yeah, it's like the expression, what Susie says of Sally, he says more of Susie than it does of Sally.
I like that.
Now, let's talk about maybe your first relationship. Did you have a girlfriend in high school at all?
Yeah, so...
I think for people
that's
at home
good,
listening,
man. That's a good question.
They'd want to know what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, so my freshman year, my sophomore year, my junior year, I never went to any of the winter formals. I never went to any of the proms. I was like, forget this. Like I said, it was something that I kicked under the rug.
But you wanted to.
Oh yeah, deep down, bro. Like you kick it under the rug, but you want it.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
but outside, you're probably like, yeah, no, I'm busy. I'm playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah. I gotta go raid. I gotta go play. And so, but my junior year, I had a girlfriend. My first girlfriend. She was amazing. It was probably my fault.
Yeah.
And
care to share her name or rather not?
No.
Gotcha.
No, I'm good.
Gotcha.
And so it was my junior year, and it was my first girlfriend, and it was my first I got the love. I got that feminine energy, and like literally we talk like love languages, right? Like there's different ways of receiving love. Like me, I'm just physical touch, like the lightest physical touch, like simply like just hand on my hand on my neck, or hand on my shoulder. Like that's all I need. Like I feel like the greatest person ever. And so like it was just a first taste for me. Like maybe I'm not so disgusting. And if there's one girl like her, there must be like more girls like her that like would mess around with me, that don't care about this physical body. So I'm like, either you're really rare or there's a couple of you floating around in the world,
Yeah.
But yeah, I got that love. I went to my winter formal, and I brought the girl to the winter formal, and I guess it was just like a step, right? It was just like kind of more reassurance that like, oh, like maybe you can do this, and maybe there are girls out there that don't care about that stuff. And so thank you for, making me realize that like all girls don't think I'm disgusting kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Because that probably gave you so much confidence that you needed,
Yeah.
especially at that time.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so that was my junior year. And then that kind of fell off and the high school.
Yeah.
Don't hate on me, high school fell off. And then senior year, this girl knows exactly who she was. She was a surfer girl, and I fell in love with this girl. Oh man, I was a senior, and she was, I think, a sophomore. She was younger, and that didn't last long. But it was just like another situation. I was like, wow, like you're awesome too. And like if you're either rare or there's more girls like you out there. And so that was just like another step for me, right? I was getting in the right direction. And then because of her, you know how high school relationships go, like how you said with your ex just broke off for no reason.
Yeah.
Like this just broke off for no reason. And I remember that might have been one of the pivotal moments of me that was like, I'm gonna get in such good shape that like girls love me. Like that was my thought frame as a high school. Like this is high school Nick, guys. Like don't judge me. But like I'm like, all right, like this girl broke up with me. Like I'm gonna get super good shape that like all the girls are gonna love me. That was my goal. And all the guys out here are probably like, I had that mind frame once.
I feel you on that, yeah.
And so, but at that time in senior year, I put myself on an internet. That was the time of Vine. So the app Vine came out, right?
That's right.
And so wrestling gave me enough confidence. I became a varsity wrestler, the 106-pound varsity wrestler from my high school. I kind of found my why during wrestling. And
was it pretty challenging for you to find your rhythm, or did you actually take to it well wrestling? Yeah.
Oh no, I got my butt kicked.
Really?
Yeah, like I remember telling my best friends, I'm like, guys, like beat me up, like pick me up, slam my face in the mat.
Don't take it easy.
Because if you hold same approach my parents took, like if they held back at me, I won't level up. So asking you shall receive, bro. I got my butt kicked my junior year. I was 1-20. My coach put me out for a varsity forfeit. I was like, thanks, I don't want it. I didn't earn it. My senior year, I came out as a 106-pound varsity wrestler for my high school, and I was 2-17, and that was 2 more real wins I got the previous year. And that's called winning. That's called progress. As long as we are moving forward in life, whether it's physically, personally, spiritually, as long as we're getting better each and every day, that's winning. That's what humans want. As humans, we love the feeling of progression. We love the feeling of moving forward. And so if you're in a slump, if you're in a rut, do one good thing, one thing today that is going to make you evolve into a better human being, whether that's reading a book, whether that's waking up, whether that's doing yoga. But once you feel like you progressed, you feel good, right? Am I right? Like I found out that my lowest days, my darkest days are the days where I'm most stagnant and nothing is going on. And, as hustlers, we're all hustlers and, grinders out here, like go, 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 go. And then we have this low moment of like 3 days where we're, maybe relaxing. Like by that third day, you're like, dude, like I'm struggling. Like I need to get back and do something. You get in this dark hole. You feel like you're not progressing. And so that's my advice to you guys out there. Whether you're in a rut, you're in this dark hole and you're like, I don't know how to get out of it. Go do something today. Like go do something today that makes you feel alive, or go do something today that is going to make you into a better human, or move that needle forward in your business.
Yeah, or go try something. Go experiment. Go get stimulated by a new environment.
Go in nature.
Yeah, one interesting thing that I've been told is, to think of it kind of like a match, right? It's like if you're trying to quote unquote find your thing or find your passion or find what makes you alive in life, act like you're a match and go rub up against different surfaces and see what lights the flame.
I like that.
And too many people go, yeah, well that didn't light my flame or that didn't. When you're a kid, you don't ask mom and dad like, hey mom and dad, what's my passion? You try things. You try this, you try that, you try this, you try that. Yet when we grow up, a lot of us try 2 or 3 things and then go flat and we're like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. But it's like if you can keep that same thing of just let me try this, let me try that, let me get better 1%, inevitably over a certain period of time, you can do some amazing things.
Yeah.
And amazing things you've done. So talk to me a little bit about after high school, because you started speaking and now you speak all over the world. You speak to tens of thousands of people. Talk to me about like when you decided consciously, like, you know what, instead of just wrestling, like I'm going to take my life and I'm going to be an example to other people that they can, no matter their situation, make their dreams a reality, go impact the world. Do you remember the moment where you made the decision, like, you know what, F this, like I'm going all in on that dream? Like, what was that moment? Take me back to that moment.
Yeah, so it was Vine. It was Vine, like to start, right? Because everything that I do with a message. And so for the message of Vine, like people may, like surface level, they may see pranks, right? But deeper level, it was, 1, I know how it feels to be suicidal. 2, I know how it feels to be depressed. I know how it feels to be uncomfortable in my skin. And even as we're sitting here, there are millions of not only kids, but adults that feel that same way. And so if they can look at their phone and see a funny video of me and go, wow, look how happy Nick is, like living his best life. Like maybe I could be a little bit more confident in my life. Maybe I could be a little bit more comfortable in my situation. That's what I wanted. And so I wanted to create a viral video. And I was like, well, how many legless guys are crawling around Walmart pretending to be a zombie? Like no one's doing it. Let me do it. And so, we did it. And I recorded this video and I got a great reaction. And you guys can find that video online if you type in Nick Zombie Prank. And
probably play it over their screen right now if they're watching on YouTube.
Yeah. And so I remember telling my family and friends, I said, my goal is 500 people. If 500 kids or adults can look at that and have that like, wow, like look at Nick, maybe I could be a little bit happier. That's all I wanted. And so I posted that video and I went to sleep for school the next morning and I woke up, it had over 80,000 likes and over 80,000 revines.
Wow.
It went internationally viral. Vine had a popular page. My video was at the top of the popular page for like 2 days, which was unheard of.
Damn.
I gained 50,000 followers in under a day. And so I go to school and people are like freaking out and like, dude, you're the zombie king. And I'm just like, oh my God, like what did I do? And I caught on that people never seen it before.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like using my unicorn shock and all abilities, my magic gift, to the best of my abilities. And so I started doing these pranks and funny videos, and I gained 1 million followers in under a year, which led me to getting hired by Fox and Walking Dead to scare Norman Reedus in Japan.
Yeah.
And so I got to do that, and then.
Do you remember when people started recognizing you?
Dude, immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I stick out like a sore thumb. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So your confidence probably super increased. You're like, that's me. Yeah.
Like senior year, like I would go to wrestling matches and the cheerleaders would be rooting for me.
Yeah.
I would take pictures with the cheerleaders and the kids. And so not only was I this varsity wrestler, like it was a big switch for Nick.
Yeah, you went from suicide to celebrity. Yeah.
yeah, it's wild. And so like I would go to schools and they'd be rooting for me, and I would go. My sister at the time was a waitress in the mall at an Applebee's, and I would go to that mall, and there would be like girls, and not only girls, but like it was kids, and they would be waiting outside to take a picture with me. And are you Nick's sister? Like it's just like, and I go to the mall and I'd post, and it did feed me. It fed my confidence because like
you needed that.
Because before I went to the mall, I would post and go, if you guys see me at the mall, like come say hi to me. I'd shut down the mall, bro.
Really?
Like kids screaming. Like that's Vine. That was the what are the audience of Vine was all kids.
Yeah.
And so like, and I was a kid, so what's more relatable than a kid being a kid, like connecting with kids?
Yeah.
And so, but elementary school, my teacher was like, you could be a speaker. Middle school, you could be a speaker. Like in elementary school, one of my therapists, or not therapists, what guidance counselors.
Right.
She pushed me to do a speech. She's like, they called me Nikki back then. They said, Nikki, you're gonna I'll help you write a speech. Will you promise to do it on stage? And I did it, and I read it off. I read the speech off. So I guess that was my first speech. But my dad was like, son, like, speaker or broadcasting? Like you could be on the radio with your voice, or you could be a speaker. Like this is just my idea. Like kind of planting seeds. But I never wanted to be a speaker, and so I was doing this Vine stuff, and I realized that like, okay, like people are correlating me with a joke. Like it's not. I'm not a businessman yet. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm just this prankster. And so I was like, okay, well, I realized that when I have grandkids and kids, that I want them to know me for much more than crawling around Walmart. And so fast forward, I moved out to LA. I got accepted to college with my best friend Dan. Backtrack to Dan.
Former bowler.
Yep, former bowler. Still
Gotcha.
Best friends. I'm going on a cruise with him next week or 2 weeks from now.
Very cool.
And we both got accepted to the same college, but I dropped out because I had the opportunity to be a core cast member of like an Impractical Joker show out here in LA. And so I didn't know nothing about business or contracts or shows. And so they're like, Nick, we need you out here. We need you out here by October. So I told my parents, I'm like, I'm not going to college. I'm moving to LA with a roommate. Yeah. And they were like, it took a while of persuasion. Thanks, Mom and Dad, that you let me do it. And so I moved out here and I signed like a lease for like an apartment. It was like $1,800, $2,000 a month. You know how LA is.
Yeah.
For a shack.
Yeah, it's actually not that expensive for LA. Yeah.
And so signed a lease to my apartment, and 2 weeks later they cut the show. I never even filmed the pilot.
Oh man.
I didn't know that could happen.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know that could happen.
Things were for sure.
And so here I am, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm gonna go broke. And so like I refused to tell my parents that I was going broke. My parents had no idea that I was struggling. Didn't want to tell them again. And so literally like I knew that credit was more like I knew credit was important. I'm still getting into like real life Nick, right? 18 years old. I'm like, credit's important. So I would literally set my money aside to pay my bills so I didn't mess up my credit, and I wouldn't eat. And so I would eat cup of noodles. I would eat tortillas and peanut butter to fill my stomach. I didn't have a bed. I was sleeping on towels. And I didn't tell my parents any of this.
So they had no clue.
No clue, because in the back of my head, my dad was always that, hey, you're gonna feed yourself. Like, you gotta be happy, but how are you gonna feed yourself? My mom was like, Nick, as long as you're happy, I'm happy. My dad was like, all right, you gotta be happy, but you gotta be independent. And so I was like, I can't fail my dad. I can't fail my dad. I can't fail my dad. And so I refused to tell my parents I was struggling. I would only ask them, hey, I'm behind a little bit. Could you, spot me here and there? But they didn't know that I was grinding.
Wow.
And so I got, and so like that kind of put me in its own hole in itself. So I kind of just like wrote out my 6-month lease and didn't do anything with my life.
So you're just kind of bumming it, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, bumming it, just chilling in LA, just like.
And you're 18 at the time?
18.
Okay, and
19.
then was it during that time period where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna start changing my life. I'm gonna start doing something with this, or?
Yeah, I moved back home.
Okay.
Some things happened personally.
Did they ask about the show?
Yeah. Yeah.
What'd you tell them?
I was like, hey, like it got canceled. I was like, but I'm here now. Like, it's better to ask for like, forgiveness.
The permission,
right?
That's right, yeah.
And so, I came back home and I was living in my parents' basement, and my dad's on me like, what are you gonna do next? Like, you gotta do something with your life. You ain't living in this basement. Like my dad was that guy, which is good. And by the way, like, I don't regret going broke in LA. This is a big thing about mindset, right? Like, everything's, Nelson Mandela says, I always quote Nelson Mandela, he says, I don't lose, I only win or learn. And so in life, when you frame yourself, you frame events and everything, that you only win or learn, like you only win or learn. And so for this, like, I realized not only can I move across the country with a roommate, but I know how to live with absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I know how to like grind and like sleep on towels, like, like grinding.
Yeah.
And so I'm super grateful for that. But I came home and I was like, all right, like, what's next, Nick? Like, you got to do something bigger and better. And so I always wanted to be in shape, didn't think I could do it, but I was analyzing the fitness industry. And I'm like, how many of the guys with no legs and one arm are a bodybuilder? No one. Let me do it. And so, at first I made an announcement. I said, hey guys, I don't want to do the pranking anymore. These are the things I'm going to set out to do. I'm going to become a bodybuilder, a model, and a keynote speaker. And I said, I'm going to be very transparent. I don't know how I'm going to do any of these things, but I'm going to show you that when you put yourselves in uneasy situations, it forces yourself to learn.
Figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out. Like, adapt and overcome. Like, just put yourself in the trenches and figure out how to do it. And so I started posting fitness videos, and people, same outside noise. How are you going to become a bodybuilder? You have half a body. I'm like, well, my top body is going to be more shredded than your whole entire body. Like, it's just all jet fuel, right? And so at first, people hated it. They didn't like the fitness videos. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't in shape. And then my knowledge in nutrition got better. My knowledge in training got better. My physique started to change, and people were like, wow, he's not joking around.
Yeah, he's actually in shape.
I was paying bodybuilding accounts like $400 a post to get my videos out there, because I didn't have any following. I had like 25,000 followers on Instagram from Vine. Started investing in myself, right? The biggest thing you can do, like biggest investment you can do, is invest in yourself. And so I'm paying accounts to post my videos, and I'm gaining some followers. And I started building this bodybuilding following. And then I was going out to expos, and people were like, you're that bodybuilder. And people were correlating me with bodybuilding. And so that was instilling my confidence, right? Because not only, now I'm not the prankster guy, I'm that bodybuilder guy. And that made me feel better about myself, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't correlated to a joke.
It was productive, yeah.
Yeah, and the one thing that they couldn't take away from me was my body. You can't buy a fit body. And so from a business standpoint, I was like, well, how marketable is that if like I can get super shredded off of, and use a product? Like, they can't take this away from me. Like, I work for this body, I didn't buy it. And so that was kind of like the business standpoint of things. And so I gained this bodybuilding following, and that led me to moving to Tampa about 2 years ago, because I wanted to be in the environment of like uplifting, better weather, more people are more inclined to be in shape.
Right.
And so I moved to Tampa, and I started speaking a little bit. I spoke at a meal prep company, which a mutual friend, so Ratmir and Don, my best friends and my business partners, the guy who travel all over with me now, their mutual friend came to one of my little events. And he was like, hey dude, afterwards we met, he's like, hey dude, I have a mastermind. I know you're new to the area, just come and meet people. And I'm like, okay. So I go to this mastermind, and the first mastermind, I was kind of like introvert, just like kind of analyzing the room, not saying much. And then the second time, and Ratmir and Don were in that first mastermind. They were in that room at that time. Didn't say anything to them. And then the second time, just Ratmir was in the mastermind. And finally he was like, dude, like, what's your story? Like, you haven't said anything. Like, I need to know like what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I told everyone my story, and Ratmir was kind of like, dude, like, you could be speaking with the greats. Like, Ratmir is more visionary, right? So immediately he was like, I could see you with Tony, and I could see you with, the top personal development people, like traveling all over the world. And with me, you know, I was doing some volunteer speaking before, but like I didn't think my story was cool, you know, because it's just
Yeah.
Nick being Nick. Like I forget to tell people I drive a car because it's just Nick driving a car, but to you guys, it's no legs and one arm driving a car.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just didn't see the impact, and I didn't have the message quite articulated, or you know, the
You didn't
way
see
I
the
want.
global appeal on how to communicate
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah.
And so I was only doing little events, and so the first thing I told Ratmer was like, I don't know you. It's like, I don't know you. I was like, yeah, like this all sounds great and dandy, but like we're gonna have to build a relationship. We're gonna have to build trust if you want to, you know, work together. And I remember, you know, we kind of hit it off that night, and he was like, listen, like I'll work for you for free, like no strings attached. Like I'll just see what I could do and pull my connections if I can get you on stages. And it was kind of a joke at first, right? It was kind of just like, if you like my work, hey, maybe we'll start a company, but let's see where it goes. Like we had no idea. And so at that time, my first ever real job, I was working part-time 9 to 2 for customer service for a meal prep company. So Nick was answering phones, so I was probably answering some calls, and
Yeah.
I hated it. You know, it was my first like, oh my God, I'm my 9 to 2 or 9 to 5. You know, I didn't like it. And so
Was that your first job?
yeah, first ever
Wow.
job. Yeah, and I hated it, by the
Yeah.
way. And so I remember like,
They forget this
you
one
know,
inspired people on stage. Yeah.
yeah. And so like, you know, I'm totally new to speaking. Probably only did like 4 engagements, right? And so
Do you remember your first speaking engagement?
yeah, it was that one on stage, right? In middle
okay.
school
Gotcha.
or elementary school, where it was for the DARE program.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
just like writing. I was reading off a script.
Were you super nervous for that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she pushed me, right? I was
Yeah.
able to do it.
Beautiful. So
And
fast
so-
forward.
Where was I?
You were saying that that you're at the meal prep company, and then
Oh yeah, so I'm working this 9 to 2, and so Ratmir, we start working together, and at the time he was doing real estate, so he was allocating 50% of his day to real estate, 50% to Nick. So he was like booking these meetings. I remember like, wow, I got so many meetings. Like this is pretty cool. Like I gotta go do work after work. And I remember telling Ratmir, I'm like, dude, like you gotta book meetings like anywhere past 3 because I got work. Like I gotta get off and like change my clothes and stuff. And finally, like we got into some car dealerships, and you know, I was kind of like articulating my message. We were getting mentors, and one of my earliest mentors was Jarek Robbins. We called Jarek up. I was like, dude, what do we do?
It's
You
Tony
know,
Robbins'
remember I was,
son.
yeah, I was like, Jarek, like this is what I want to do. I want to create a speaking company. It kept, like he was one of the first guys we went to. So thank you, Jarek, for just your knowledge and your presence. But we got into some car dealerships, right? And we were getting like light checks, or I was volunteering. I was doing free stuff. And then finally, I'm in the office, and Ratmir's like calls me. He's like, bro, just quit your job. Like we got it. Like just quit your job. Let's just like, the more like we can double down and focus on this, like just quit your job. And Ratmir's very good at getting people to quit their job. He got Don to quit his Ernst & Young job.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right, so I quit the job. And so we went full head, you know, of building the speaking company. And like I said, guys, like we didn't know how to build a speaking company, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like find out who's crushing it, find out what they're doing right and do more of that, find out what they're doing wrong and don't do that. Like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so we were just like watching videos, you know, reading books, like Book Yourself Solid. Like we were just reading books on like how to build a speaking company because we had no idea.
Literally zero.
And like I
yeah.
want you guys to take a sense of comfort in the fact that we had no idea how to build this company. And so we're just grinding, we're networking, you know, just he's cold calling, just figuring out, you know, getting the pitch right. Like, and the one thing that I have to say is like immediately Ratmir was 100% sold on me, like sold on my message. Like, and that's what you need. Like you can't have someone pitching you or negotiating or working for you if they're not 100% sold on you or your vision. It's got to be all in.
Totally
so he
agree
was,
with that.
you know, 100, like even though I wasn't the greatest speaker in the world back then, like he believed that I was the greatest speaker in the world from that moment. And so, and like fast forward now, like Ed just labeled me one of the greatest speakers on earth right now.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh my God, you know, like,
Surreal
but
for
like,
you, yeah.
I never believed I had the ability to do it.
And what's awesome is that you're saying that it all started from imperfect action. You know, that
Just
somebody,
taking action.
Yeah, just taking action, staying in it, and not sort of like, oh, we don't know, so we'll stop. How many people say, well, I don't know how to do that, and so they don't even try.
And they sit on the sideline. I always say I'd much rather be in the trenches and falling on my face and failing, whatever you want to call it, at something that I'm pursuing and enjoy than sitting on the sideline not doing anything.
Yeah, eating peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, saying what they should be doing or what they ought to be doing,
exactly.
not doing anything yourself. No, very
So
powerful.
yeah, and so we built this speaking company, you know, just building credibility. So I got the book out, Victim to Victor. I got the book out for credibility. You know, secured Amazon bestseller. Then I got a Forbes article featured on me, and you know, then we went to some Tony Robbins events, and we networked our way and got to meet Tony, and he invited me to his next event, and that later, built that relationship. I went ahead and spoke for his youth leadership. Like,
Wow.
it's just like,
So you went to actually speak for Tony.
yeah,
Wow.
for his youth leadership.
Incredible.
But this is all about like, we just show up. Like, we just show up. Like, we drove 4 hours to meet David Meltzer just for the opportunity to shake his hand.
Yeah.
And like, we slept in the car. Like, this is like recent stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you may think, oh, like entrepreneurs, like they got building this, dope business. No, like we still sleep on couches and we still sleep in cars and we still do whatever it takes to get to the next level. Like it's like, that's what got us here in the first place, is like doing everything. Just like, finding ways to bring value and finding ways to provide win-wins, and how can I benefit you? And, just like Ed, like our goal, like when we found Ed's first content, we were like, that's our guy. And we're going to kidnap this guy who doesn't want to become our mentor. Like, that was our goal. Like, like we're going to put this guy in a sack and like carry him out. And like, he's going to be our mentor.
Whatever it takes.
And so like, it's just like, the whatever it take mentality, but also just like, just realizing that you only know what you know. I think the biggest thing that stops people from building businesses and excelling, whether it's personally or business, is ego. And so the one thing that I always tell people, that we are in this life set frame or mindset frame of that we are students of the game. Each and every day we realize that we only know what we know. And that in order to learn to the best of our ability, that we need to sit in a room and we need to drop our egos and just realize that we can learn from every person, whether it's a janitor, whether it's the CEO, like we can learn from every person. But in order to do that, like it's got to be egoless, which is really hard nowadays,
especially
with
social
Instagram.
media. Yeah.
Everything's ego driven. And so just being, I think that's one of the, like our keys to success is just being students of the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny. I always say when people will try to come into our business or our team, I say what I always look for is egoless talent.
Yeah.
Egoless talent.
They don't know how good they are.
Yeah, exactly.
The people that don't know how, great they are.
Yeah, or don't use that as their identity isn't wrapped up in that, or they're bigger than you because of it. It's like we're all on the even playing field. Talk to me a little bit about some insecurities that you maybe still deal with. Something I do in every interview I've done, whether it's, multi-billion-dollar entrepreneurs, multi-million-dollar entrepreneurs, people on the way up at all stages of life, even Ed, we all deal with our personal challenges.
Yeah.
Talk to me about some challenges that you're currently dealing with. And the reason I ask this is because there might be someone watching going, damn, Nick's just killing it. I thought I had excuses, Nick has all these reasons and he's still pushing through regardless. But maybe share some vulnerabilities or maybe things you haven't shared before and current challenges you're dealing with, so people out there could go, oh shit, Nick is human. He's just like me. He has his own handicaps in certain ways.
Self-reflection. I'm very difficult. I'm very hard on myself. I have a hard time self-reflecting and like smelling the flowers and patting myself on the back. And so like, for example, there was one time where I was having a super low day, just like felt like I was a bum, like just felt like I wasn't doing enough. And I get on this Skype interview and for a podcast, right? And this guy's just like, he's doing my intro and he's like, Nick's done this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh, I did do all that.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, I guess you are doing pretty good, like, but like as hustlers, as grinders, right? We just get in this like tunnel vision zone of like, I need more, I need more, I need more, I need more. But like, if you're never like stopping and like self-reflecting on like, wow, like I may have not went from A to Z, but I went from A to D. I've come this far. Let me self-reflect on this. I have a hard time self-reflecting, and I have a hard time, like pat myself on the back and feeling good, because I feel like there's always just more to get, right? But also, it's just like that's coming out of like, if you're driven by significance, you're always going to be like, it's always going to be emptiness, right? There's always someone that's smarter, better looking, taller, whatever it may be.
More
and
followers,
so it's just
whatever,
realizing like you're doing it for fulfillment, and just making sure like when you wake up and you look into the mirror, like, is what I'm doing today make me feel good? Is what I'm doing today make me feel, fulfilled and make me feel like I'm living life on purpose? Because that's the most important thing. Like, don't get caught up in like that never-ending rabbit hole of like trying to get as much money, because someone's always going to have more money than you, right? There's always someone better than you. And so just realigning yourself, just coming home, coming back to your vision of like why you're doing this, and I'm doing it for fulfillment and not doing it for significance. The other thing that I struggle with is like, even from Vine, right? I was a 17, 18-year-old kid. From 17 and 18-year-old kid, I've been having to filter what I post. I'm still a kid.
Yeah.
I'm still
How old are you
22.
now?
I'm 22 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still a kid. Like, I still like to goof around. I still like to be a doofus. And like, sometimes I can't do that because it's not professional. It's not business. And so that's the one thing that I struggle with, is just like, sometimes I just want to be
kid.
Nick, just be a kid. And so like in those times, the cameras get turned off, and I get to be Nick. And that's the other thing that I struggle with is like traveling, is just like routine. Like I feel like all these successful people, they're like successful habits and successful routines. Well, my life is not routine. Like I went to bed at 6 a.m. last night, and because I had to do some work and I had to be up, and now I have to be up for this. It's just like my life's all over. So I kind of struggle in between of like, should I have routine or should I just keep going with the motions and going through, flying and doing all these things? I'm trying to think of like some really, what do I struggle with? Like what are some of the things that you guys think I struggle with? I want people to know like I'm just like you. Like I'm just a normal kid, and like I struggle with like, I want to play video games when I want to work. Sometimes like I have to work and I want to play video games. Like, like these are the things that I struggle with. Like I'm still a 22-year-old kid. And that's what I want to let people realize is like my job is to just show you like I'm not different. Like, yeah, I'm physically different. I get it, right? But I'm not different. Everyone wants to know how Nick operates. Everyone wants to know, how is Nick successful? How is Nick happy? How is he living life? And how is he doing all these things with no legs, one arm? I promise you the way I'm doing it is this. I have this computer system, programmed right. I have my operating system programmed correctly. And that's what I want to give people. I want them to have my perspective. I want them to have the way that I fell on my face and got back up, but I just want them to have my operating system. I want them to see how I deal with negatives, how I deal with girls, how I deal with guys, how I deal with, failure, how I deal with that. And that's what I'm doing with, the Victorious University, right? It's the virtual training program that I'm creating. That's what I've realized is traveling all around the world is people want to know how Nick thinks.
Right.
And so, although unfortunately I can't be in your living rooms all over, I created the virtual training program that we're coming out, the Victorious University, of how you can cultivate this mindset. And the best way that I can explain it is just, I'm giving you my operating system. I'm giving you my operating system, but I'm doing it in a fun way where I traveled all around the world and I went into the trenches and I painted the picture by doing obstacles, because I don't want to dictate people. I don't want to sit in a studio and say, you do this and you do this. Like, I want to be like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it with you. And so, for example, like I went to Arizona and I climbed a 3-mile mountain. And basically, while I was climbing this I never climbed a mountain before, by the way. And so I'm climbing this 3-mile mountain and I'm showing people the importance of accountability groups. I'm showing people, what are the thoughts, what are the limiting beliefs that are going through my head right now? What are the things that I'm struggling with internally while I'm going and trying to achieve this goal? And the importance of, you're 75% to your goal, but it feels so much better to get to 100, right? You can quit now. You've already made the $1 million, right? You already made the $500,000 that you wanted to make, but it's so much better to fulfill all the way through. So painting the picture is the best way you can teach people. And I wanted to do it in crazy ways. So climbing mountains, swimming with sharks in Hawaii, like,
you guys actually swam with sharks in Hawaii.
Yeah. Oh,
Holy
yeah.
shit,
We filmed this way to not only paint the picture in a fun way, but to let you download my operating system.
That's incredible, man. What about some things that you wish you could tell people throughout your life? Because I'm sure there were times at 13, 14, 15, 16, and I'm sure beyond that, where you might get looks, right? I'm sure you got looks when you were out in public, and it sort of messed with your head a little bit. What are things you wish that you had a stage where you could tell people, for example? Then. That maybe like were in you for a long time. And obviously now you're a living example of all those things. But I just want to give a voice, because maybe there's somebody watching that maybe is in a similar situation to you.
Yeah.
Or maybe has their own challenge in some other capacity. And they're maybe not on the other side of the confidence spectrum yet. Maybe they're still dealing with some of the challenges you were, and don't have anybody, and this interview might be their only medium, right?
Yeah.
So what would your advice be to them based upon things that like you could identify with them in terms of like feeling certain things that you couldn't express at that time? Like, hey, I'm a normal dude. Like, why are you looking at me weird? Why are you guys pointing at me weird?
Yeah.
Because you probably got a lot of that,
It's
right?
the power of reframing. Reframing changed my life. The meaning you attach behind situations.
Like Tony Robbins says, nothing in life has any meaning except the meaning we give it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, like we were saying this whole interview, right? Humans, we put disempowering meanings behind anything, unless we reprogram our brain.
Why do you think that is?
Bro, we're primed. Look at the TV. Look at the news.
Yeah,
everything's
news.
Negative. Everything. Your parents are like complaining about the news, or they're watching the news, or they're complaining about the fact that they missed the turn on the GPS. Like, dude, like we're in a very negative environment. And so it's the power of reframing. And so what I mean by that is like, remember the girls. Biggest suicidal trigger for me, right? For girls. And that was me putting a disempowering meaning, saying, okay, well, these girls don't mess with me because I'm disgusting, right? Disempowering meaning, right? My life changed when I realized that if a girl doesn't, better listen to this is some fire. If a girl doesn't want to further a conversation with me, if a girl doesn't want to love me, if a girl doesn't want to further a relationship with me because of my physical differences, well, then my physical differences is an authentic filter, and it's filtering out the girls that I don't want in my life anyway.
Exactly.
Dude, changed my life. Changed my whole entire life. Same thing with going in public. If you think people are staring at you, like when I was a young kid and I saw people staring at me, I get so pissed off. Like, why are you staring at me? Why are you staring at me? Now as an adult, I'm like, well, if I saw a unicorn on the side of the street, like I'd stare too. You know? Like people, like that's what's just gonna happen. You know, like they're either staring at like now like when people stare at me, I kind of laugh because I know in their mind I'm mind blowing them. Like their mind is blown. Like they've probably never seen anything like that, and they're like, what? I didn't know that was real. You know, like it's a funny, more empowering meaning that you attach behind it. And so that's what I'd say. You know, reframing things, and it's so important to realize, like Tony says, you know, that your problems turn into gifts once you learn from them. And it's just like everything in life, like everything that you think was negative, I promise you was a positive. It was happening for you and not to you. Like there's always one good piece of information that you can extract from that loss and turn it into a W. And that's how I've been living my life. I mean, that's the secret to the sauce, is just like the power of reframing and realizing, like, you know, like there's always something good. Like this is meaningful. Like you may think it's negative, but let me put an empowering meaning behind it, and then it's a positive. But like it's just like our lens, bro.
Yeah.
The lens we look at life.
The filter by which we see everything.
Everything.
How about fitness? How has that impacted your thinking in your life?
Yeah, fitness. So, you know, people say, oh, you do the bodybuilding, you know, what's more important, the physical aspect or the, you know, the mental aspect? And just like people need to realize that we need to be well-balanced creatures. And so like, just think of how many people that are in business crushing it that are obese, right? They could be crushing it even more if they were putting the right fuels into the body. You know, if we view our bodies as a Ferrari and we're putting regular gas into a Ferrari, how is that Ferrari going to perform? Not like a Ferrari, right? And so if you're crushing it in fitness, well, that's great. You know, health is wealth. Health is most important. Like, let me get that straight. Like, you can have all the money in the world, and then you find out that you're going to die in 5 days, and none of that money is going to. Look at Steve Jobs. Didn't help him, right? And so you want to be well balanced. So if you have the health, right? If you're shredded, well, that's time to focus on business, and you know, so you have some money to enjoy your longevity of life.
That's right.
If you have the wealth, let's focus on the health, right? Because all that wealth, like, you don't want to be 50 and sick. You want to be 50 and like be retired or have all this financial freedom and be able to be healthy for the next 30 years of your life to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think we need to be well-rounded. And I also think that getting into the gym, whether you're not a fitness athlete or an addict or a bodybuilder, right? Just getting in the gym and moving, just doing cardio, doing something is going to make you feel better. It just makes you feel better. And it makes you feel better about, you know, like, just look at the way that you are improving your operating system. Like, you know, you're putting the work in the gym that's only going to benefit you in your physical life and your business life. Like, everything's only going to get better as your health gets better. You know, your cognitive abilities, right? Like, it's just more clarity. And I just, like I said, you see so many successful people that are not in shape. I'm like, dude, you could be like 10xing. You could be like blowing your stuff up if you had this part of your life in check too. Or like, just think of, you know, all these, you know, successful guys that may not be in shape. Like, when's the last time you can run around with your kid and play Frisbee or golf with your kid, you know? Like, you want to be able to enjoy your family.
That's right.
And enjoy your friends. And like, it sucks to see, like, you know, that, you know, me being no legs and one arm and being in the shape I am and just seeing people like that are like obese and just in wheelchairs. I'm like, man, that could be totally different for you.
And they're loaded with excuses as to why they don't have time.
And I'm not poking. I'm not hating on that. I'm just saying, like, maybe they didn't have that unicorn in their life, or maybe they didn't have that perspective given to them, you know? And that's why like what I do, I feel like it's so important, is just because I want to get in front of as many people as I can and just share my perspective and share like my operating system to show them, like, dude, like, we're so lucky. Like, we're so lucky, like, to be in this human body, right? Like, also the one thing that I've been on a kick on is like, if every single human being, at least once a day, self-reflected on the thought that we are on a rock and it's floating around in the middle of this nothingness and we have no idea what it is, but we're in this human experience and we're in this human body, how lucky are we? Like our heart.
Yeah.
Like you woke up one day, you had a heart. You woke up one day and you were living.
Yeah.
You didn't have to work for it.
Yeah, unbelievable. And then the cells all day long, and your immune
Dude,
system,
even
blood platelets.
like right now, we
yeah.
don't even feel the blood rushing through our ear right now.
All we focus on is words and eating and moving. Yeah, like
Yeah, and the fact that I didn't get enough Instagram likes, or this traffic
Yeah.
sucks. I'm like, dude, at least you're alive. At least you could touch the steer. At least you could feel,
You're
experience.
conscious.
At least you can experience.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: in traveling the world and speaking all over the world, what have you noticed are some of the biggest things that hold people back? Obviously, it's one thing to have perspective on what holds people back online, or if you're in one place, but the fact that you've got, like you said, you've got access, you've had a ticket to history because you've been in the trenches. What is it that holds most people back that you've seen from traveling all around the world and getting these questions from people nonstop?
It's themselves, bro. We all hold we all do it. We hold ourselves back, and we're crippled by our limiting thoughts, our limiting beliefs. And so, for example, when I spoke in China, I flew into a city called Mianyang, and 10,000 people showed up to hear me speak. And so there were a lot of them. They were mostly students, and they knew English, but they like crammed, like they study hard over in China. It's like from 7 in the morning to 9 at night, like 6-7 days a week. And so they were just in a really stressful time. They're about to take a big test, and after my speech, they were like, the counselors and everyone was like, dude, like the campus was much more relaxed, and like just like a cloud of uplifting, because like I said, it just takes that piercing of the perspective to realize, like, well, if this kid's doing all that, like I can do that. Like I can do this. I can take this test. If Nick cut his arm off to do wrestling, like I can take this test.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it just takes that moment of like, I'm gonna put my obstacles on this table, and you put your obstacles on this table, and then we're just gonna like see like how our lives really are, and like what's really hard in life. So but like traveling all around, I think it's two things. There's probably more things, right? But I think it's the limiting beliefs, I think it's ourselves, and I think it's our environment. Because
so
like
true.
Even me, I was held back from my environment. In LA, I wasn't with the right roommate, and it was just this stagnant environment. And so I think a lot of people have a hard time releasing their friends, releasing like the wrong friends,
Right.
the wrong people in their group, and even sometimes it's your family too, that are holding you back. And so I think it's not only us that are holding ourselves back, but like not being able to break away from the group that is keeping them there. Like elevating your circle. I think people, I myself, okay, that's something that I've struggled with, right? When I moved to Tampa, like I had a hard time like stepping away from some of my friends. But the one thing I realized is that I have to love them from afar. Like that was my solution for the accountability groups. And like some people I'm just gonna have to love from afar. Like they don't really benefit me too much,
Right.
and not gonna help elevate me. They're not hustlers and they're not driven like I am, or how I wanna be. And so like I think it's the environment. I think it's key. I think it's not only like once you start realizing like destroying these limiting beliefs, but surrounding yourself with people that are not only going to love on you, but are going to push you when they know you need to be pushed.
Yeah,
I think that's key, because like I couldn't do this on my own.
Yeah, no, totally.
I couldn't do any of this on my own.
No, absolutely. Now let me ask you this: if life were perfect, what's Nick's vision for the next 10, 20 years and beyond?
Awesome. So if life was perfect,
what would
this is going to happen. So
yeah. So what's the vision? Yeah.
So life is a perfect vision. Take over the speaking space, right? So right now I'm blowing up in Asia, and so I plan to take a lot of my work and go over to Asia and work over there, and come back and do as much work as I can in America. But also right now, one of my earliest passions and my biggest dreams was to become a singer and a rapper. And so right now my soul has been just like calling me to do more music, and so that's why we're here in LA. I've been filming music. And so,
is it hip hop or what type of music?
Yeah, hip hop, rap, but like
very cool,
meaningful, substance, depth-driven music. Basically, like if I can articulate and impact people with my words on a speech, then I'm going to put it into music, and I'm going to put it into a catchy manner, so I can subconsciously plant seeds in these kids' lives and these kids' minds, and they have no idea. Because like right now with the industry and rap and all that, it's all negative stuff.
Oh man, it's boozing women.
Yeah, suicide, like taking pills, take the pain away. Like
and they
it's
glorify
terrible.
that.
Yeah, and it's great. It's the coolest thing.
And they go, it's catchy.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, but you're subconsciously letting those lyrics become beliefs.
Yeah. So I want to put personal development and positiveness and my perspective into catchy rap singing songs. And so taking over the speaking, taking over modeling. I still continuously want to shatter modeling industries. I'm writing my album now, and then eventually, touring, going on tour for my music as well. Collaborating with, rappers and people that are making meaningful stuff like Logic and Russ, and Post Malone. Like these are type of guys that are, Post is kind of reckless, but I love you.
Yeah.
But like more meaningful, depth, substance-driven music. And so, like like I said, what speaking is great. Personal development is great, but you can cast a huge net with music.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what about to somebody listening who might go, Nick, I'm trying to make my life work. I'm stuck in a rut right now. Or maybe somebody who, has financial success, but they're not fulfilled and, just in a stuck place. Whether you're successful or not, a lot of people can be in that place. But for somebody listening who's like, damn, I'm inspired, I'm ready to do something, and they look to you for advice, what would be your best 60-second piece of advice to help somebody get out of the rut, get out of their head, and start making their life a masterpiece, start moving in the direction they want?
Yeah, I think it's have clarity on your vision. But I think most importantly, we need to start with the vision, right? The why. Like, why are we doing what we're doing? Like when you wake up, like, why are you going to work? Like, where's your energy going? And so once you get clarity on like your why, right, then you start. But whatever it is, I feel like it's just like reverse engineer your goal. And so like, what's your
big
big
goal? We hear that
goal?
a lot. Almost like 80% of the time they say the exact same thing. So
Yeah,
I agree with you.
like get a big goal, whatever it is. Make sure like it's honed, your clarity's there, and then like what are the little steps to get you to that goal, and work on that. But a lot of people say, I don't know my why, or I don't know my passion. Well, you haven't tried enough things. Like like we were saying before, like you won't know if you enjoy something if you never try it. For example, like a couple months ago, we finally made the decision to get a snowboard adapted for me, and like I would never know. I love snowboarding now. Like, dude, literally, like in my goal list, become a professional snowboarder. Like it's so stretch, but like I love it and I enjoy it and it fires me up. And I would never be this fired up about snowboarding if I never tried it. And so I think it's just like, if you don't know where you're at, if you don't know if you're in a rut, it's just like try things that you think you enjoy, and I think, and get out of your environment. Like go discover, go realize that there's so much more world out here. Like I always tell, like even my high school friends, people that I went to high school with, I'm like, get out of the town. You get out, go experience, go see things, because there's so much more life and so much more experience around than that's this little town you're living in. And the more you're exposed to different things and more nature and different opportunities, you'll find things, but you just got to get out.
Yeah.
Like your passion, like sometimes it's lucky and it comes to you, but like if you're searching for your thing, like just go try things, because like what's the worst that happen? You don't like it, so I don't know. I just try everything. I always say, I'm gonna live my life with more remember whens and less what ifs.
Dude, I love that, and you've been a perfect example of that. Well, before we wrap up here, we always play a game called First Things First at the end of interviews. And the way the game works is I'm gonna rifle off 10 words or phrases, and then you just tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'll say a word or phrase, and then you just tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind. The only rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice. Got it?
Got it.
Okay,
it's
cool.
tough. I'm nervous. This is the nervous part.
This is gonna be a fun one, though. All right, ready?
So it's either a word or a phrase.
Yeah, you can say a word or a phrase, something that comes to mind. Just, it's like a relation game.
Got it.
Okay, ready? First word, money.
Freedom.
Second word, passion.
Drive.
Third word, your story.
Nick's story. Perspective.
Your virtual training program coming out soon.
Download my operating system. How Nick thinks.
Adversity.
Life. Life is adversity.
Fitness.
Health is wealth.
Suicide.
Old Nick.
New Nick.
New year, new me. No, I'm just kidding. New Nick. A monster. I'm a monster. I'm just a mindset monster.
I love that. Perspective.
Life. Life is perspective.
Passion.
We did passion. Should I say it again? Passion? Oh, so you don't want me to repeat myself. Passionate for you.
And then the last one, you ready? Nick's legacy.
I may not have legs, but I'm here to make a massive footprint in the world before I leave.
So Nick, where can people find out more about you and your upcoming programs that you have coming up?
Yeah, so on Instagram and Facebook, I'm Nick Santonastasso, the guy with the really long last name. And then if you want to come have me speak and burn your building down, our email is booking@booknicksanto.com. And then also we're going to be giving away everyone a free audiobook of Victim to Victor. I think the text will be below, but that's my gift from me to you. I hope you guys enjoy it. And like I said, brother, I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Oh, man.
Appreciate you having me.
It's been a pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, thank you for being one of the passionate few.
If you guys enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we bring you the very best in personal development content, interviews, and insights to help inspire you to take your life and your dreams and make them a reality. And also, if you want to know how to book dream guests the same way I have, you can check the link below for my top 3 secrets. So if you have a podcast or a show or whatever it is and you want to collaborate with them, if you click that link below, I'll give you those top 3 secrets to help you get in touch with anybody. And also, don't forget that The Passionate Few is available on media platforms as well. So you can subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, thank you for being one of the passionate few.